Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Canadian Football Central, CFL content for the fans, by the fans, and we have our Week 7 review right here. 4 games this week, which Rick goes 4-0 on his predictions this week. I go 3-1, and I'm not very happy about the one I lost. Let's put it that way.
And I got the bonus.
And yeah, well, I got a bonus too. I just didn't get the big one. I got like the half bonus. You got the full bonus.
Hey,
but
I'm not much closer to you.
You are slightly closer. This is true. Shall we get into the first one, Rick?
We shall.
So the first one was the Montreal Alouettes beating the Toronto Argonauts, who were leading in this game. And I'm not going to lie, the Argonauts totally choked this, man. They had this 26-25 win for the Alouettes. Alouettes put up 12 points in the fourth quarter. The Argonauts respond with nothing.
It's funny because I was watching this game while I was working, and
Brutal.
I'm like, crap, 18-7 at half. I'm like, did I really just pick Montreal to lose or to
win?
Montreal to beat Toronto, and Toronto's really going to beat Montreal?
Yeah. I was wondering the same thing, and then I was with my girlfriend in my backyard, and we were throwing a football for fun, and I just looked through the window, and I see the TV, and I see the score, and I'm like, oh, they blew it. They blew it. Just absolutely wild stuff.
You got to remember, Philpott did not play this game.
This is true.
So you had Derek Parrish return for Toronto. Dante McMahon return for Toronto. You also had Wynton McManus return for Toronto.
Oh, yeah. Now, with the Argos here, again, so they put up 3 in the first, 15 in the second quarter. Second quarter is where the Argonauts really take off. They stay kind of evenish in that third quarter, but it's that fourth quarter collapse that gets them. With the 2 rushing touchdowns, one for Davis Alexander and one for Sean Thomas Erlington, in the fourth quarter. It's funny, they went for the 2-point conversion both times, as the Alouettes were going to try to get that 3-point lead, just in case the Argos were able to come back with a field goal, but weren't able to get it either time. It's kind of crazy, as this was, you know what this was? This was the battle of the 2 teams that struggled to run the ball, in the sense of Tease led the Alouettes with only 40 rushing yards. However, he did have a good average of 6.7. I will give him that. And the Argos, Deonta McMahon, only 32 rushing yards. Like, no one had, like, again, 40 rushing yards was the most you had for one single player on either of these teams. So, not a crazy night rushing. Yeah.
I have a new theory. Don't watch anything but the last 3 minutes. Let me run this down for you, okay?
No lead is safe, Rick. That's how the CFL works.
Listen to how messed up this is. 2 minutes and 55 seconds left. Alexander throws the speaker for 48 yards, fumbles it, recovered by Toronto at the 1. Okay. Then you have, because it wasn't a safety, it was a touchback. So then they started off at the 30. What does Arbuckle do? Maybe 40 seconds later, he gets sacked and fumbles the ball, which then Sean Oakman recovers it. Then you have, so they're now at the 21-yard line. Alexander passes it for 11 yards to the 10. Then he runs for the touchdown, which he pulls his hamstring again. And then they kick it off. And then everyone thinks, oh, well, you know, a minute 38, Toronto's going to come back, kick the winning field goal, get the win. Does Arbuckle not throw another interception with a minute 3 left? And then Montreal runs out the clock. Like, that's within, like, the last 3 minutes.
Yep.
It's like, oh, my Lord.
But yeah, this is one of those things where if you're an Argos fan, this has got to be just sound the alarm. Now 1-5, I believe, or are they 1-4, or 1-5?
They are.
I think it's
Give me a second.
1-5.
They're 1-5. They played one less in Ottawa.
It's absolutely brutal. It's brutal. This is ladies and gentlemen, the fact that you can be 1-5 and still not in last place in your division is insane to me. Like
I mean, going at this rate,
Rick, this is screaming West crossover right now.
you know what's even funnier?
What?
Take this in. So Edmonton has 2 games on hand on BC. BC has 6 points. What would happen if all of a sudden the Elks come out on a tear? First off, they have to start Fajardo first.
Yeah.
Surpass BC for that 4th playoff spot, and then Edmonton gets the crossover.
Oh my goodness.
You have 3 teams battling or 4 teams battling for that last playoff spot.
Yeah.
Even though you've only won 1 game, you can still make up.
Pretty wild stuff. But all in all, this is just tight game between these two teams. Speaker leading the charge for the receiving core for the Alouettes. 9 receptions for 129 receiving yards, 1 touchdown there. Maltos goes 2 for 2. On the Argos side of things, Mattel with 77 receiving yards. Haralahu goes 1 for 1 on the field goal attempts. And Dark Angelo with both a fumble recovery and an interception, so good job for him. Forced fumble, though, for Casey on the Argonauts. Again, it's one of those things where the Argonauts, they got to be able to hold that lead. This is one of those things where when you are that close, when you have a game just within grasp like that, you got to finish it. And the Argonauts had an opportunity to kind of solidify themselves really above Ottawa as the 3rd place spot right now in the East. And as much as they're holding at 3rd place, they're not solidified over that. Again, you're talking about a team that's 1-5 versus a team that's 1-6. You have bad versus worse. And so I'm not going to say that they can't turn the season around. It certainly is possible. Again, this is why I think people need to calm the fuck down a little bit when they're talking about the Bombers. If you take a look at where the Bombers were before, where the last season, I believe they were like 2-6, and then they went on like a 10-game winning streak. I'm not saying that that's entirely likely. I'm not saying I'm not saying that's likely, but I'm just saying a lot of football left in the season. If you're an Argonauts fan, I imagine you're pretty pissed off about this. But even if it seems hopeless, not yet. We are only at week 7. There's still a lot of football left. But it would take a lot of effort for this team even just to finish 500, I will say. Are you ready for the next one, Rick?
I am.
Okay. The next one was the Calgary Stampeders beating the Winnipeg Blue Bombers by a score of 41-20. Fuck this game. Screw this game. Calgary dominated Winnipeg in every single goddamn way. Collaros and Strevler both threw 2 picks. And it wasn't just that they threw picks. That wasn't the bad part. You know what the bad part was? It was where they threw this pick. Because Chris Strevler throws a pick in the goddamn end zone. So not only are we not getting the touch, and it's a play where he shouldn't even thrown the fucking ball. So Strevler runs out, and he's getting pressured, and he had a little bit of room. He didn't have a ton of room. He wouldn't have been able to get into the end zone. But like Strevler gets anxious and tries to force a play that's not there. And sure enough, it doesn't go so well. Collaros wasn't much better than last game. I think this is just we don't know how to play against Ottawa, or we don't know how to play against Calgary sort of thing. And Calgary, this is a combination of 2 things. This is Winnipeg doesn't know how to play against Calgary, and And Calgary is red hot right now. They just are. For Winnipeg, there were so many issues with this. Dietrich Mills, good game for him over on the Stampeders. Brady Oliveira was okay. He had 68 rushing yards, but I get a little bit more from Brady usually. Dembski with 146 receiving yards, 1 touchdown on 7 receptions. He had done relatively good. So Caleros gets hit here. And he goes down, and Zach Caleros is now looking like we're talking in concussion territory. The injuries that he had before he was part of the Bombers that we always knew were a potential with him here. We've thankfully been able to avoid the vast majority of them. Have finally caught up, and he's now out. And I'm not going to lie. For all the times that I've praised this offensive line, I was not impressed. Now, I'm going to cut him a little bit of slack here as Stanley Bryant was out and Micah Vanterpool had to play left tackle instead of left guard, which are 2 completely different positions in the way that you play them. And Vanterpool, Wallace is not as good of a guard as Vanterpool is, and Vanterpool is not even close to as good of a defensive tackle, an offensive tackle as Stanley Bryant is. Stanley Bryant is uncharacteristically good at that position. And it made a huge difference, as it meant that Caleros not only had a guy tugging on the back of his jersey after he threw the ball out, but he had a guy slamming right into the front of him. And it's that him hitting that back of his head on the turf, which gets him. It's not good. Trey Vavel also gets hurt because we can't have nice things, apparently. We need Peyton Logan to be healthy as God. Well, Vavel is out. Caleros is out. It's funny. Dietrich Nichols had 6 tackles. I was not impressed with Dietrich Nichols. I'm not gonna lie. I was actually losing my effing mind with our corners, with the exception of Evan Holm. Evan Holm, it's funny, he didn't have any tackles, but he had our 1 interception. And that's the thing. If you're getting a ton of tackles as a DB, you know what that says, Rick? If you're a DB, that says that the guy's catching the ball first. If you force it to be incomplete, you don't get a tackle because the guy never gets possession of the ball. This is why Evan Holm's numbers are better, even though he has no tackles and Nichols has 6. Because the problem is that the thing that the Bombers specialized in this last game and the game before, and it fucking drove me up the wall, is that they were incredible at letting them catch the ball and then pushing them out of bounds afterwards. Holy shit, we were incredible at that. Rick, you want to know something? We were so good at giving up the first down and then deciding that we wanted to play football after that. Every single part of the game. Like, seriously. Like, and it was one of those things where you have to sometimes, like, I'm not saying always jump in front and go for the interception, but good God, occasionally something, especially if you got a guy in double coverage. I watched a guy in double coverage and both of them let him catch the ball and then forced him out of bounds afterwards. We couldn't have had one guy jump in front and then the other guy cover. You know, that would just make way too much sense. It was brain dead decisions. Vern Adams Jr., 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Very good game for VA. Not much to say there. Calgary receiver corps was really, really good all over the place. Dominic Rhymes, after getting the touchdown, his 1 touchdown of the night, went down the end zone and went like this, and he's mocking all the fans, which is kind of crazy considering that Dominic Rhymes played for the Ottawa Redblacks last year, which were horrible, and he played with BC, which is certified Winnipeg Blue Bombers bitch for the past how many years. And so I guess he's finally starting to get his chirping in now. It's funny. Do I probably sound like really, really salty? Because I kind of am. I'm going to be real about this. I'm kind of pissed off. I will say I'm not at the point where there are some people who are being like, the season is lost. We lost 2 in a row.
Don't even get me started
what are we
with
going to do? And it's like, guys, calm the fuck down. Like, I understand the fear. I understand the uncertainty. To be fair, the games that we lost were to the same team. So hopefully it just means that Calgary's our boogeyman as of right now, and that's a problem we can deal with later. Because we got Toronto next week, and normally we struggle to get wins in Toronto. But the good news for us is that the Toronto Argonauts are not a good football team this year. And so we got to be able to get the win against them, knowing that. They're third in the East, and not a good third. Not a good third.
No.
So if you're Winnipeg, you're going to want to get that hit. You're going to want to get that in. There was a controversial play regarding Willie Jefferson in this game, as he was assessed a 25-yard spearing penalty. We will discuss that, but we're actually going to discuss that later after we finish talking about the Hamilton game, because there was a somewhat similar play involving Amos. So it just kind of makes sense to discuss those two together. For the second straight game, the only player that was any good on Winnipeg was Sergio Castillo, and that was it. He was 2 for 2, and I believe he hit a 58-yard field goal? Yeah, 58.
58 was his longest.
So, impressive job by Castillo. Everyone else sucked, but I'm not going to lie, I was frustrated. It just felt like we got that loss in the Stampede Bowl, and there was no adjustment. None. We just went out there and spewed out the same shit that we spewed out in that first game. And Calgary, they did their film. They got ready. They did their practice, and they were ready. 41-20, and don't let that score fool you. That was a 41-13 game. Bombers got a touchdown in garbage time near the end against a bunch of Stamps backups. Doesn't effing count. So, not good. That's my thought on that game. If you want to see a full 20-minute rant, check out the Nolan Hockey podcast. I did my my video on the Bomber game and the disaster that was. So make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. Appreciate it.
I don't know what was more dreadful. You watching this, or you having to do more talk about this in your review.
You know what? I feel like watching it was worse, because at least when you're watching it, you have the hope that they maybe can turn it around. When you're doing the review after, you can just kind of rant and just get it all off your chest.
True.
But anyways, I think I'm ready to go to the next one.
Sure.
Are you? Okay, so for the next one, the Saskatchewan Roughriders defeated the BC Lions by a score of 33-27. Lions made a push near the end of this game to try to get back into it, but it was just a little bit too late. As if we're looking here.
I'm sorry, I'm just, while you're looking that up.
Does the score app seriously not have the frickin' stats for this game? What the fuck?
So, while you're looking that, I'll do BC for... Actually, you know what? I'll do Saskatchewan, because I know how much you hate Saskatchewan.
I do hate Saskatchewan.
Trevor Harris went 23 for 30, 395 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. AJ Ouellette went 15 carries for 72 yards, no touchdowns. Tommy Stevens, 6 carries for 27 yards, no touchdowns. Kadeem Carey, I didn't see what the injury was that he had. He only had 4 carries for 12 yards. Rumor has it that it could be one that could end his football career.
Yeah, I was hearing some of that. It's not good. Yeah.
Dante Myers led the receiving, 7 for 7 for 132 yards, 2 touchdowns. Emilus returns to the lineup, getting 2 for 3, 78 yards. Deshaun Johnson, 6 for 8, 77 yards. Duncan Busby had 4 for 5 for 67. Rosette Talley, 1 for 3, 29 yards. And then AJ Ouellette, 3 for 4, 12 yards for 1 touchdown.
On the... mind if I talk about the Lions here a little bit?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
On the line side of things, Nathan Rourke, with not quite as good of numbers as Trevor Harris, but not crazy off. So he'd go 27 for 41, so a relatively similar completion percentage. 337 yards, as opposed to the 395 thrown by Trevor Harris. 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, just like Trevor Harris. His longest was a 40-yard pass, whereas Trevor Harris was a 66. Trevor Harris averaged a 13.2 yards per pass, whereas it was 8.2 for Nathan Rourke. So not quite as good as Trevor Harris, but not necessarily god-awful numbers either. James Butler, 9 carries, 30 yards, an average of 3.3. That's not good enough. If we go to the receiver core here, Aiden Eberhardt, 8 targets, 6 receptions, 105 receiving yards. Good friend of the channel. 2 touchdowns for him. 1 touchdown for Stanley Berryhill with his 59 receiving yards, and then it kind of drops off a little past that for Hatcher, Butler, Kotoy, McInnes, and then Passant. On the defensive side of things, Ben Hladek and Micah Alway, both linebackers, kind of leading the charge with defensive tackles, 7 per for each of them. The interception was made by Roland Kent Jr., so good job for him. Funny enough, on the CFL website, I'm not sure if this is a typo or if this is real. Aiden Eberhardt is given a defensive tackle. Was there like a pick thrown and maybe he got a tackle there? Is that maybe what it was?
It's quite possible.
Because that's not special teams technically. So I guess maybe that's what it was.
So it most likely it would have been a interception tackle.
An tackle after an interception. Okay.
Yeah, because something like that happened in our game too.
Yeah. But all in all, it's one of those things where if you're Saskatchewan, you probably would have wanted to win this one by a little bit of a wider margin, but at the end of the day, a win's a win. And if you're BC, obviously frustrated with the loss at home. If you're BC, you're glad that you at least finished it with it being closing the gap a bit, as they were behind by a bit. So they were able to close that gap a little bit. But I think that's all I have. Is there anything else you got, Rick?
Not really.
Which brings us to the last game of the week and your favorite game of the week.
Yes,
as the Hamilton Tiger Cats defeated the Hamilton Tiger Cats defeated the Ottawa Red Blacks in Ottawa by a score of 30-15, and you were at this game.
Fun fact before I get into this game, Carter, did you know that every team that won this week won the season series?
Great.
Already?
Great, Rick. That's great. As someone who's annoyed about my Bombers.
I didn't mean to rub your wounds anymore.
Good God. Don't remind me.
So we'll start with we took possession in the game. We got a field goal on our first possession. What kind of ruffled the feathers of the Red Blacks is the first play Ottawa had, Bob Dice threw a challenge flag on the very first freaking play of your team's offense, and he throws a challenge flag. Mind you, he did win it, but had you have lost, you would have only had one timeout for the rest of the game, the starting offense. So, from there, they ended up not getting any points in the first quarter. Drew Brown threw a pick to Stavros Kachatonis in the first quarter. Now, if you haven't seen it, you just see Stavros come out of like the corner of your TV screen and just like jump for it. Carter, I see no one in the CFL knows how to guard Kenny Lawler because once again he gets another touchdown.
You just can't guard him. It just doesn't
so
work.
This would give him number 8 on the season, and this will push him to so with him having 8, another former Blue Bomber has 25 on the season. So if he keeps up with the pace, Milt Stegall, we know we're coming for you, my friend. So after the first quarter, we end up leading the game 10-0. To start the second, they add Ottawa adds a 21-yard field goal to make it 10-3. That's where that play comes off that we'll discuss after this game. And from there, Hamilton gets another sack. Their only sack of the season by Tayshaun Garbett. Let's see. Ottawa would settle for a 27-yard field goal to make it 10-6. Hamilton would go 2 and out before punting to the Ottawa 25, which then they'd get legal black in the back, which there's a lot of penalties in this game. Why, I don't know. But then Ottawa would get another field goal to make it 10-9. And I'm not kidding you. I was worried when it was 10-9 because I'm thinking, okay, hopefully we don't come back and lose against the worst team in the East. However, we would get our own field goal. Legio would get a 39-yard field goal to make it 13-9. And then just before the halftime, Lewis Ward would kick a 45-yard field goal, so it would make it 13-12 at half. Ottawa decided to take the ball in the second half. Let's see. Ottawa would get a sack from Wakefield. It's an 8-yard sack. Following, he would throw a deep pass, a 63-yarder to Keandre Smith, which was his highest. The next play, Trayshawn Ward would get a touchdown, his first career, which would make it 20-12. Dustin Crum would end up throwing another touchdown, or a touchdown, to Dustin Talbert. He would come in after Drew Brown left the game. So after 3 quarters, it would be 20-12. Bo Levi Mitchell would throw an interception. Scary to think that it's only his second of the season. Pickett would return it for 43 yards, the Hamilton 24. I thought, okay, here we go again. We're going to let up another touchdown. They only kicked a field goal, which was a 27-yarder. Next play, Lee Trey would get a rushing touchdown. And from there, have you ever seen Justin Hardy throw a ball?
No.
Because he threw a pick instead. So again, Dustin Talbert. So this game, there is three interceptions by 3 different people. But all in all, the game would end up, we would get a 25-yard field goal, so it'd end up being 30-15. Bo would throw 21 for 33, 327 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Johnny Augustine would have 18 carries for 85 yards, no touchdowns, but Lee Trey and Ward would each have 1 rushing touchdown each. Tim White actually did better than last week when he only went 4 for 11. He went 8 for 10, leading with 89 yards. Keandre was second, 3 for 5 with 81. Kenny Lawler, 3 for 6 with 1 touchdown. He also threw to Giovanni Robinson, Keaton Bergling, Tyler Tanowski, Johnny Augustine, Trayshawn Ward, and Shamar Bridges. On defense, you had Ray Wilburn leading the team with 7 defensive tackles. Dustin Talbert and Stavros Katratonis. Talbert had 2 interceptions, and Stavros had 1 interception. And your boy Kenny Lawler had a tackle on an interception. Legio went 3 for 3 on extra points, 3 for 3 on field goals, and that's it from the Hamilton side. Do you want me to go with the Ottawa side, or did you want to go with the Ottawa side?
Actually, yeah, go for it, because I'm just responding to a comment that we're getting right now. That's all.
Dustin Crum went 16 for 22 after coming in for Drew Brown, 149, 1 interception, no touchdowns. Drew Brown went 6 for 8 for 66 yards before he was taken out of the game with a concussion, 1 interception. Justin Hardy 0 for 1, 0 yards, 1 interception. Daniel Adnaboye with 4 carries for 54 yards. Longest was 30. Dustin Crum, 6 carries for 43 yards. 13 was his longest. William Stanback, 7 carries for 17 yards. 6 was his longest. So the average with their rushing game was 13.5 for Daniel Adnaboye. Drew Brown had 3 carries for -6 yards. Leading their receivers, Kale Pimpleton, 5 for 5 for 56 yards. Andre Miller had 49. Justin Hardy had 7 for 10 for 47. Daniel Adnaboye, 3 for 3 for 20 yards. Here's another letdown. Eugene Lewis, 1 for 3 for 13 yards. Elijah McGee, who was guarding Kenny Lawler, led with 7 defensive tackles. Darius Pickett had 1 interception. Bryce Carter and Wakefield each had 1 sack each. And no fumble recoveries. Lewis Ward went 5 for 5 with his longest being 45. And yeah, Ottawa just played flat. There was honestly, if we're talking about how bad Ottawa is, Ottawa only had 15,000 fans for this game. And when you're playing as garbage as you are, either they're going to continue to go down this spiral or Bob Dice is going to get fired. Everyone's calling for Bob Dice's head. You're going to have to do something during this bye week.
You might. It's one of those things where I don't know if that solves the problem, but this is a team that lacks direction. Plain and simple.
I mean, that all starts with the head coach.
And so that's something where, as much as he may be a decent coach, when he's got some better tools to deal with, at the end of the day, before you go scorched earth and start killing all the talent and burning everything down and bringing a whole bunch of new guys in and all that, usually it starts at the top. It starts at the coach. So
this is the experience of a Tommy Condell offense.
I was about to say Rick's blaming all this on the Tommy Condell. Yeah.
So if Bob Dice gets fired, the only replacements that I can see that are still under the team is Tommy Condell going to head coach, which would be freaking hilarious.
I was about to say, I wonder what you'd think of that, Rick. Tommy Condell's a head coach in the Canadian Football League.
I would honestly move my seats from where I sit to behind the Ottawa bench, and I'd be chirping him every minute of the game, the last game of the season when they come to Hamilton. And I'd be wearing my firing Tommy Condell t-shirt.
You even though he's already fired?
Even though he's already fired.
Even though he got fired, you got your wish.
Yeah, and I'm gonna rub it in because teams don't work. Well, I mean, let's put it this way: Ottawa won't win a Grey Cup with Tommy Condell as their offensive coordinator. Didn't work for us; it won't work for them.
Damn. Now, Rick, are we looking to get on to the
Sure.
discussion then? So
Sure.
I'm gonna let you start this off then.
Okay. So depending on how you look at, which one are we starting with first of all?
Let's start. I think we're gonna start with the Hamilton one because that brought up the discussion, but we're gonna talk about the Winnipeg one too because there is relevancy there.
Okay. So there's two ways to look at this. And let me,
for those wondering what we're talking about, we are talking about specifically players getting hit in the head in the game of Canadian football.
So here's my whole thing is, and I'm going to do it from both sides as a Ticat fan and arguments for the other side. So when you go out onto the field, I don't care who you are, quarterback, kicker, defender, for the love of God, put on your chin straps on your helmets. They're not just there to decorate as dangling as a decoration, because this could have been wouldn't be as worse. I mean, he still would have ended up with a concussion regardless. But I mean, he wouldn't have lost his helmet had he have just put the chin straps on. He didn't have his chin straps on,
why is this relevant? What does this have to do with anything? I'm just
why? What does it have to do? Because if he had,
I'm not saying I don't know. I'm saying it because I wanted you to be clear with your argument.
Because
that's all.
When Amos went to go hit Dustin Brown, the impact wouldn't have been as much because his helmet had flown off his head and went flying down the field when he got hit.
Yes.
So when he got hit, he hit the ground. It's almost like the Zach Claros one, but Zach Claros wasn't head on hit, but Zach Claros still hit his head off.
Yeah, well, he was hitting the chest. It was a clean hit, but he did hit his head on the turf.
My whole thing is, What would have happened if Amos would have hit Drew Brown? Drew Brown's helmet would have came off, and Drew Brown hit his head off the field. That wouldn't have been on Deshaun Amos. That would have been Drew Brown's fault because he didn't buckle up his helmet. Less to say. So my whole problem with this all comes down to the reffing in the CFL. Because if you take Deshaun Amos's hit on...
Well, not just the reffing, but also potential supplementary discipline afterwards.
Well, hold on. Let me finish to what I was saying. So, Deshaun Amos got a grade 2 roughing the passer 25-yard penalty head to the head, or helmet to the head. If you go look at the Calgary-Winnipeg game, same thing freaking happens. Willie Jefferson hits the quarterback helmet to helmet, head to head, and how does Willie Jefferson only get a 15-yard penalty? And
correction, he got a 25-yard penalty. He got spearing. Spearing's a 25-yarder. Spearing is an automatic 25-yard penalty. I'm pretty sure. I thought. Is it not? I thought it was 25 yards. Maybe I'm wrong.
He only got 15.
Oh, he only got 15? Okay. Okay, fair enough.
That's my whole point is it's head to the head. If you're going to call the same thing on Deshaun Amos, you best be friggin' calling the same thing on Jefferson. If you're going to suspend Amos, Jefferson best be suspended too. You can't have tit for tat, and this is going to be looking bad on the league if you give one person a little bit of a leeway than the other.
Yeah. Now,
I'm okay with fines. If you want to fine them, I'm okay with that.
You just want consistency.
Exactly. So if you're gonna call this, you got to call it in that game too. Obviously, the Winnipeg game happened before the Hamilton game, but it's still helmet to helmet. It's still hit for hit. So if you're gonna call Deshaun's helmet to helmet a grade 2, then you got to be calling the Jefferson one grade 2.
Yeah, because he was assessed a spearing penalty on the play. Now, the interesting thing here, and this is not, I want to make this clear. This argument I'm about to make is not an argument I necessarily agree with. I am making this argument in the sense of, not that this is how it should be, but this is just kind of I guess how I believe it is with leagues, and I understand the logic, even though, again, I disagree with some of the premise. But it's basically the idea that leagues in general, there's a bit. The unfortunate thing is that player safety has a business component to it, which is really sad and unfortunate, and it shouldn't be this way. But in almost every major sports there is. As if you think about it, like if we just think about the NHL for a second, if we just think hockey just for an example, I'll put it this way. Imagine, I want you to imagine, I don't know, maybe, let's talk about Adam Lowry, okay? Adam Lowry, he's a big guy. He has no suspensions on his record, okay? Clean record, okay? Rick?
Fair enough.
And let's imagine Connor McDavid before he got that suspension for crushing, okay? And so let's say he had a clean record too, okay?
Yep.
If Adam Lowry and Connor McDavid had a vicious cross-check that was exactly the same on a defenseless player that, let's say, left that player injured for 2 or 3 weeks, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think they would get punished the same? Or do you think one of them would get away with it more than the other? Because I would be willing to bet good money that McDavid's not going to be suspended as long. And
definitely he wouldn't be suspended as long.
Yep, and that's the unfortunate nature of things. So then the question is, why? Or even actually, if someone were to, if Lowry had made this brutal play against McDavid, that suspension might even be worse than what it would be against some random Joe Schmo. But the reason is because the business incentive of the league is to give more protection to the players that they view are the moneymakers. In football, this is the quarterbacks. Whether you have a good quarterback or a bad quarterback, or whatever it is, that is usually one of the faces of the franchise. And so naturally there is a more protective. There's a lot more protections given to quarterbacks in the sense of the hits that you could throw on a lot of receivers once they have the ball, and a lot of running backs when they're running through the line. Can't do that with a quarterback. You just can't. Again, I'm not saying it's fair. I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying this is the reality of how this is called and how this will continue to be called. And so it's one of those things where I think there needs the CFL needs to the issue is I don't have an issue with them necessarily whether they have to fine them or whether they have to suspend them. Again, it's consistency and a clear standard, in the sense of a lot of these. Like I've seen some guys get suspended for almost nothing, and then I've seen some guys commit absolutely bloody murder and not even get fined in this league. And so there needs to be some consistency in regards to those hits. I think a fine or a 1-game suspension for both Willie Jefferson and Deshaun Amos would be fair. It's funny. I didn't think it was too bad when I saw the Willie Jefferson hit in the stadium, but then again, I didn't see the good replay of it. I've seen a good replay of it now. He hit some square in the head with the helmet. Fair enough. That's that. I don't agree with the idea that it's intent to injure, because you have to realize here that Willie Jefferson is stupidly tall. And so for him to actually lower himself all the way to make sure he makes no head contact whatsoever, I don't buy that it was intent to injure, because you have to realize that him naturally being taller means that he's going to end up hitting guys a little higher because he's taller. It's one of those things where it's like, I'm a guy who's 6'2". If I'm playing hockey and I would go for a normal body check on a guy who's 5'3", I may accidentally hit him in the head. You want to know why? Because I am taller than he is. Again, I'm not saying that should excuse the behavior and say that is unacceptable. It's still negligence. It absolutely is. But those suggesting that this is intent to injure, no, it's just not. That's just not the truth of the situation. But this is a play that I think it would be fair to give him either a fine or a 1-game suspension. I agree with that. And I agree with that for the Deshaun Amos hit. That was very much using the crown of his helmet, direct headshot on Drew Brown. And then on Willie Jefferson's hit, I can't remember who exactly he had hit, but he hits him with the helmet straight to the helmet.
Okay, so there's 2 things that I just want to mention before we close this off.
Yep.
So if you look at the rule book, it says action to raise to the level of ejection. Now, this is for unnecessary roughness. Contact on the passer that is deemed a non-football action or egregious example of roughing the passer. If they're going to put this wording in the rule book, you need to give examples. Egregious example.
Egregious?
It could be anything.
Yeah,
like
if
you're gonna,
that is pretty vague.
Example,
I'll give you that.
If you punch someone in the head, well, obviously they said punching someone in the head, you're gonna get ejected. But this is like very vague. Like you can't, if you are gonna give ejections, like for example, below the spearing it says any player with 2 grade 2 unnecessary roughness fouls in the same game will be disqualified from that game. So that just basically says you need to get 2 grade 2 unnecessary roughness fouls to be disqualified from the game. So even though he got a major penalty, he still was able to play the game because he only had 1, not 2 grade 2 unnecessary roughness penalties, so he would not be ejected. Those people that are out there, I'm sorry, you need to read the rule books before you say things like, oh, he should have been ejected. Or ejected. Then I wanted to go. So Deshaun said this on social media. First and foremost, my thoughts and prayer go out to Drew. As someone who lost significant playing time due to injury, that's the last thing I would intentionally do to someone. The talk about lack of technique, I will take it, but the cheap shots, dirty player talk, got the wrong guy. Drew Brown responds with, appreciate, brother. The people that matter, or the people that matter, know you, not the type of player. It's football. Sh- Shit happens fast. So
Yep.
even he's saying that it was not intentional. That it was just spur of the moment that no one was blocking him, and with how fast Amos was going, obviously Drew Brown didn't have the chance to move,
Yeah.
and it's just like the second that he moved, it's just like bam, right, you know.
Yeah, and this is where I think the CFL panel was getting in, and this is where a lot of the opinion I saw coming from the TSN panel was kind of that this should not be suspended in their eyes. And I understand it in the sense of they're kind of like, listen, it's football, things happen quick. It clearly wasn't intentional. It's just it's an accidental play that happens, and I agree with that to a certain extent. Although I will say, just because something is accidental doesn't mean that it's also not negligible conduct, in the sense of just kind of reckless behavior, which I think it is that. But again, I guess if this is really that controversial, then there's an easy answer for this. You know what that is, Rick?
What's that?
Fine. Give him a fine.
Yeah, I'm okay
A
with
lot
that.
a lot of people will be happy that he's not the crowd that are is the this is football crowd, and this shit just kind of happens. Which, to be fair, it sounds like Drew Brown is in that camp, and he's the guy who got hit. So, fair enough. Um, for that crowd, should be decently pleased with that answer. Although I don't know, it seems like a lot of people don't get pleased by anything nowadays. Um, but then for those who are demanding justice and demanding that something is done, a fine at least kind of appeases that. So I think that might be the best way to kind of manage the situation. So, you there, Rick?
Yeah, I'm ready. Anything else, my friend?
I think that's all I got. Is there anything else you have?
No, sir.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you guys check out our Week 8 preview coming out later this week. Make sure you guys leave a like, share it around, and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you're listening to this on Spotify, make sure you guys give us 5 stars. We very much appreciate all of your guys' support. Peace, love, and positivity, all you wonderful people at home, and we will see you guys next time.